It began with whispers, quiet voices in the colonnades of Athens, long after sunset. The sound of sandals on marble, the soft murmur of men who spoke of reason, but also of something deeper. They called themselves philosophers, but some said they were more than that. Some said they were part of a brotherhood, a secret order born from the teachings of a man named Zeno of Citium, founder of Stoicism. To the world, Stoicism was a philosophy of logic, virtue, and endurance. But behind the polished words and calm faces, there existed something hidden, a code known only to the initiated. A code that could shape kings, topple empires, and bend fate itself. The story began around 300 BCE in the port city of Athens. Zeno, a shipwrecked merchant from Cyprus, had lost everything when his cargo sank beneath the Aegean Sea. Desperate and wandering, he stumbled into a bookseller's stall, and there, he read the story of Socrates. Something in those words broke him and remade him. He began teaching in a painted porch, the Stoic, surrounded by merchants, soldiers, and beggars. He told them that happiness was not found in wealth or power, but in virtue, in mastering one's own mind. Man conquers the world by conquering himself, he said. But among his students, there were a few who saw more. They believed Zeno's calm voice hid something revolutionary, a philosophy not just of inner peace, but of control. Those men met in secret after Zeno's public lectures. Their names would later be lost to time, but ancient records call them the First Circle. They claimed Zeno had given them more than philosophy. He had given them the logos, the hidden structure of the universe, the divine fire that moves all things. To them, this wasn't mere poetry. It was a system, a set of principles by which men could understand, predict, and even influence the world. One whispered fragment from the Herculaneum papyri reads, "He who knows the order of the cosmos commands its motion." If true, it meant that Stoicism was more than a moral code. It was an early science of power, disguised as virtue. Those who entered the circle took an oath, not to the gods of Olympus, but to the Logos itself. They swore to live by its law, reason above emotion, order above chaos, truth above comfort. But there was a second vow, darker, unspoken, never to reveal the deeper meaning of the Stoa. Only a few were ever initiated. Among them was Cleanthes, Zeno's successor, and later Chrysippus, the man who would codify the Stoic system. Together they refined the order's secret, turning cosmic observation into a mental discipline so precise that even pain, loss, and death could be mastered. To outsiders, Stoics seemed cold, detached, unshaken by tragedy. But within the order, this was called the Great Alignment, the synchronization of human thought with the mind of the universe. As Athens fell to Macedonian rule, the order spread quietly. Its members posed as merchants, scholars, and advisors to kings. They spoke of ethics by day, but by night, they studied the patterns of the stars, the geometry of fate, and the behavior of men in power. They believed every event, every breath, was part of an unbroken chain, causality itself. And to master that chain, one needed to detach from all desire. The Stoic did not fight fate, he became one with it. And in doing so, he gained something the world could not understand, freedom through obedience to the natural order. But what the world didn't know was that the order's greatest secret wasn't about accepting fate. It was about shaping it. The Stoa Poikal, the painted porch, looked like nothing more than an open-air hall, its columns gleaming with frescoes of ancient battles and heroic deeds. To the crowds of Athens, it was simply a place of talk. But after sunset, when the marketplace emptied and the city quieted, the true purpose of the porch came alive. Behind its columns, through a concealed passage near the base of the third pillar, lay a stairway, leading into the catacombs beneath the old agora. There, by the flicker of oil lamps, the members of the first circle gathered. This was not philosophy. This was initiation. Zeno taught his public students of virtue, wisdom, and control. But those who took the secret oath were shown the other half, the doctrine of the Logos. To the uninitiated, Logos meant reason. To the order, it meant divine intelligence. The the structure that governed the movement of stars, the birth of storms, the rhythm of thought itself. They believed the logos was alive, a vast consciousness that pulsed through everything. And if one could align his mind with it, he could see patterns before they happened, the flow of destiny. Their motto was simple: to understand is to foresee. Hidden in a marble alcove beneath the stoa was a circle carved into the floor, lines intersecting like a star, symbols inscribed at the edges. It was said to represent the cosmic order: fire, air, water, earth, and the fifth, pneuma, the breath of life that bound all things. Each initiate would stand at the center of the circle, close his eyes, and repeat the vow: I am a fragment of the logos. What it wills, I will. But there was more. The oldest text of the order, the lost scroll of Cleanthes, spoke of a deeper practice, a mental exercise known as the turning. Through meditation, deprivation, and repetition, the initiate was said to silence all human emotion until only pure awareness remained. At that moment, his thoughts would turn in harmony with the cosmic mind. It was not mysticism, it was alignment. And those who achieved it claimed to sense events before they occurred. In later centuries, Roman records would mention strange practices among certain Stoics: long fasts, sleepless nights, exposure to pain without flinching. Historians saw this as proof of discipline. But within the order, it was known as the trial of endurance, a ritual designed to strip away everything human until only logos remained. Those who failed would lose their minds, trapped in endless detachment. Those who succeeded were said to reach a state of apatheia, perfect serenity, beyond life or death. And yet, one fragment recovered from the Herculaneum scrolls suggests that some went further. It reads, "A man who has mastered himself has mastered others. The one who commands emotion commands the world." Was this the birth of a hidden political doctrine within Stoicism? A code for shaping not just the self, but entire empires? As the power of Greece faded, Stoicism moved west to Rome. By the time of Seneca and Epictetus, the order's influence had reached the Senate, the army, even the emperor's court. Seneca himself wrote, "Fate leads the willing, drags the unwilling." But some scholars believe this line was a cipher, a quiet admission that the Stoics no longer merely followed fate, they guided it. The brotherhood had become an invisible network of advisors, generals, and philosophers. Their emblem, a small flame within a circle, was etched in hidden corners of villas and temples across the empire. But their true purpose remained known only to the inner few. And at the center of it all was a secret philosophy, one powerful enough to threaten both gods and kings. By the 1st century BCE, the Stoic order had spread like quiet fire. From the marble porches of Athens to the marble halls of Rome, their influence seeped into the minds of rulers, poets, and soldiers. But while the public saw them as calm philosophers, preachers of virtue and restraint, within the inner circle, a different truth was whispered. They spoke of a forbidden code, a system hidden within Stoic teachings that could predict and even control the behavior of men. The ancient Stoics studied more than ethics. They studied patterns, the rhythm of thought, reaction, and desire. They believed every human emotion followed a calculable sequence, a chain from impression to impulse to action. And they claimed that by observing these patterns long enough, one could foresee human decisions, as surely as one could forecast an eclipse. In one fragment attributed to Chrysippus, it is written, "Reason is the formula of fate. The world moves not by chaos, but by code." This code, known within the order as lex ratio, the law of reason, became their obsession. They charted human behavior like astronomers charted the stars, mapping every emotional cause and effect into an intricate web of probability. Over time, this evolved into what the Stoics called the matrix of logos, a vast conceptual map of the universe, where every event, every thought, every death was a point in a divine equation. In 48 BCE, during the burning of the Library of Alexandria, a group of men dressed in plain robes carried crates out through the smoke. Among the rescued texts were the scrolls of the Stoics, writings that spoke of lex ratio, meditation practices, and a theory that mind and matter were different faces of the same divine current. Some say these scrolls were hidden within the temple of Serapis, others that they were taken to Rhodes, the island where Stoic navigators taught the geometry of the stars. Wherever they went, they became the seed of a new mystery tradition, fusing Greek philosophy with Egyptian esoterica. It was here that the order began using symbols rather than words, a triangle inside a circle to represent the unbroken cycle of reason, a flame above it to symbolize consciousness. To them, the flame was the human mind, a spark of the cosmic fire. When Augustus came to power, he understood the danger of ideas that claimed to rival divine authority. The emperor's priests reported that Stoic gatherings were not mere discussions, but mathematics of destiny. They accused them of teaching that fate, not the gods, ruled the world. Augustus issued a silent decree. Any philosophy that diminished the gods' power was to be suppressed. Dozens of Stoic teachers were exiled. Their scrolls were confiscated or quietly destroyed. But the order did not die. It went underground. They began using coded phrases in public discourse. When a Stoic spoke of virtue, he meant alignment. When he spoke of nature, he meant logos. And when he spoke of indifference, he meant freedom from control. They had built a philosophical encryption system, ideas disguised within moral lessons. Centuries later, one man stood at the crossroads between empire and enlightenment. Lucius Annaeus Seneca, tutor to Emperor Nero. To the world, he was a man of letters. To the initiated, he was the last master of the order. Seneca wrote publicly of calmness, fate, and virtue, yet his private letters hinted at deeper truths. We are fragments of a single mind. The more we resemble it, the more it resembles us. But Nero's paranoia grew. He accused Seneca of plotting against him, and perhaps he wasn't entirely wrong. Seneca's teachings of self-mastery and divine reason directly challenged imperial power. To control a man who believes himself divine in reason was impossible. So the emperor ordered him to die. But when Seneca slit his wrists in a bath of warm water, witnesses said he whispered not prayers, but numbers. A code, one that, to this day, remains unsolved. After Seneca's death, the Stoic order vanished from history. Some say they disbanded. Others claim they became the secret mentors of early Christian thinkers, influencing the rise of theology with their ideas of divine reason and the universal soul. But hidden graffiti found beneath the ruins of Pompeii reads, "Virtue is the key. Reason is the gate." Perhaps the brotherhood didn't vanish at all. Perhaps it merely changed its face, from Stoic to monk, from philosopher to scientist. Because even now, the same belief echoes through modern thought, that behind all chaos, there is order, and that by aligning with it, one can shape the future itself. Rome, the city of marble and madness. By the time Marcus Aurelius rose to the throne in 161 CE, the Stoic order had been forgotten by the masses, or so it seemed. But in the emperor's chambers, behind the soft flicker of lamplight, Stoicism still breathed, quietly and dangerously. Marcus Aurelius, often called the philosopher king, surrounded himself not with generals, but with thinkers, men who whispered to him the old code of logos, the same doctrine Augustus once tried to erase. They called themselves custodes ratio, the keepers of reason. Their purpose, to ensure that emperors ruled not by passion or superstition, but by alignment with the universal order. But not everyone shared that vision. Across the empire, priests and augurs complained that the emperor no longer made sacrifices to Jupiter or Mars. Instead, he spent nights meditating under the stars, writing strange verses like, "The universe is change. Life is opinion." These words weren't just reflections. They were activations, chants used in Stoic meditation to attune the mind to lex ratio. According to fragments found centuries later, the keepers believed that when the emperor aligned fully with the cosmic order, he could rule without armies, because destiny itself would bend to him. But where there is power, there is always fear. In 175 CE, A general named Avidius Cassius rebelled against Marcus. Historians tell us he declared himself emperor after hearing false news that Marcus had died. But hidden accounts suggest another reason. Cassius was once a Stoic student, excommunicated from the order for revealing fragments of Lex Ratio to Egyptian mystics. He knew of the emperor's secret meditations. He knew of the keepers and their rituals, and he feared what they were becoming, not philosophers, but engineers of fate. So Cassius sought to expose them. He gathered scrolls, testimonies, even reports from soldiers claiming Marcus's meditations caused visions of celestial order before battles. Cassius planned to present these as proof of heresy before the Senate. But before his rebellion reached Rome, he was assassinated, quietly, efficiently, and without trial. His writings vanished. Some say they were burned. Others believe they were hidden, sealed within a tomb beneath Ephesus, marked only with the Stoic sigil, a circle within a triangle. The rebellion crushed Marcus. He saw in it the same conflict that haunted all philosophy, the war between reason and desire. So he gathered the custodes ratio one final time. In that secret meeting, he declared that no man should ever again hold both empire and enlightenment, for the burden would destroy him. He ordered the order to dissolve, the scrolls, teachings, and codes to be scattered across the empire. Half were sent to Athens, half to the libraries of Asia Minor. But one text, the Manual of Logos, he kept with him until death. It was never found. When Marcus died in 180 CE, his son Commodus ascended, a man of cruelty, vanity, and blood. Under his reign, philosophy was mocked, Stoics persecuted, temples looted. The empire turned from reason to spectacle, and the hidden order of the Stoics was silenced once more. Yet, a century later, deep in the deserts of Syria, Christian monks copied passages from unknown Greek manuscripts. They wrote of divine reason, of cosmic unity, of logos that became flesh. The same concepts once spoken in the Stoipoikal, now woven into new theology. Was this coincidence? Or inheritance? One monk, known only as Marcellus of Antioch, left a cryptic note in the margin of a gospel draft. We are the last of the Stoics, clothed in the robes of faith. This discovery, centuries later, reignited speculation that the hidden order never vanished, but evolved, infiltrating the rising religions of the world, shaping their language, cloaking their logic in divine mystery. The emperor may have died, but his philosophy did not. It became a whisper in churches, a spark in scholars, and a ghost in empires. A system that refused to die because it was built on reason itself. And perhaps the greatest secret of all is that reason never dies. It only changes its mask. Centuries passed. Empires fell. Religions rose. But the Stoic order, or what remained of it, survived like a shadow beneath the surface of civilization. By the Renaissance, whispers of their teachings returned. Scholars in Florence and Venice found fragments of ancient Greek scrolls, some written in strange shorthand resembling mathematical formulas mixed with prayer. They called it the philosopher's cipher. And among those fragments was a name once thought lost, Lex Ratio. In 1463, a man named Marsilio Ficino translated the writings of Plato and the Stoics for the first time in centuries. But according to his letters, some passages were omitted intentionally. He wrote of dangerous verses that spoke of divine geometry, where thought and matter mirrored one another, the same concept once whispered by the custodes ratio. These censored fragments described the mind as a lens, capable of aligning with the universe's order, not just to understand it, but to reshape it. A rebirth of the Stoic idea that reason could control fate. Ficino feared the church's wrath, so he buried those verses inside a commentary he never published. But one disciple, Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, read them, and from that seed grew what we now call the humanist revolution. Through centuries, the Stoic ideals evolved, slipping silently into new philosophies. When Descartes declared, "I think, therefore I am," he unknowingly echoed the Stoic creed, that thought is the foundation of being. When Newton described the universe as a clockwork mechanism, he He repeated Chrysippus's vision of a rationally ordered cosmos. And when Marcus Aurelius's meditations resurfaced in print in the 16th century, scholars noticed something strange. Certain phrases seemed coded. When rearranged, they formed patterns resembling numerical ratios, an echo of lex ratio. Coincidence? Or the lingering fingerprint of the hidden order? Even today, the Stoic flame burns in silence, in psychology, logic, and even artificial intelligence. Cognitive behavioral therapy, the science of mastering thought to master emotion, is built upon Stoic foundations. It is the modern version of the same algorithm, the matrix of logos, now taught in hospitals instead of temples. In 1899, an excavation near Rhodes uncovered a sealed chamber beneath the ruins of an ancient stoa. Inside were fragments of papyrus, blackened by time, but legible enough to translate. They spoke of disciples who guard the mind of the world, and a final warning. When men forget that reason is divine, chaos will return. The flame must be kept lit. But at the end of the final scroll, one phrase stood alone, written not in Greek, but in Latin, custodes ratio aeterni, the keepers of eternal reason. Some historians dismissed it as forgery. Others, however, quietly noted that the handwriting matched a manuscript found in Alexandria, dated nearly 1,000 years earlier, which means the flame had indeed survived. Today, the influence of the Stoics is everywhere, hidden in plain sight. From leaders quoting Marcus Aurelius to scientists seeking rational laws in chaos, humanity continues the ancient mission to decode the mind of the cosmos. But one question remains: who now guards the code? Some say the hidden order still exists, operating not as monks or philosophers, but as thinkers in plain sight, physicists, psychologists, even data scientists, continuing the same search for alignment with the logos. A search no longer called religion, but reason. Because if the Stoics were right, if lex ratio truly maps the universe, then whoever deciphers it next won't just understand fate. They'll command it. And perhaps that's why the order was never destroyed. Only hidden. Because some truths aren't meant to be believed, only rediscovered.